because it's our first story, is brought to us by Denver Beer Co. They expanded
Technically, they didn't sponsor, but they could.
They could. This could be you sponsoring it, Denver Beer Co. They opened up their 4th location in Littleton. Yeah, super cool. They expanded. It's one of the additional breweries we've been talking about over the last couple of weeks, that we kind of have this interesting sector where we have breweries closing, but yet we have these breweries that are doing things really well, that are kind of just scooping up those locations and continuing growing. So they're bringing, they're all about their atmosphere, making good local beers, a good vibrant atmosphere, and they're bringing that to the Littleton area. So hopefully Littleton's pumped to have them.
I heard it went really well, at least according to the social media world. And I don't see how it couldn't, right? They're doing a lot of really good things really well. Yeah. So I think that's just proven by it's their 4th tap room, right? And good for them, and congratulations to them. And we look forward to their continued success. And I really do think it's going to make a lot of people really happy in that area, right? You've got some really good beers and a lot of great people that run the company. So
yeah,
fun.
There's kind of like a double interesting with it, is you're seeing breweries close, and you're seeing honestly some of like we're not calling them bigger because they're still in like the small level, but bigger of the small breweries kind of scooping them up and growing, which kind of shows a couple of things. It really validates what we talked about. You really have to be doing a lot of things well. It doesn't necessarily mean like it doesn't necessarily mean that the community doesn't want beer around or they're tapped out on drinking beer. It just maybe means like the ones that are there weren't like fulfilling the needs of the community itself. So
like they know what they like.
Yeah, it's just like
people know what they like.
Some breweries are doing it better than others. And I think because there's a lot of variety out in the world, especially in the Colorado area, people get to pick and choose a little bit more. And so having something that they like, they're gonna go to it. And the other piece that is interesting in there that we talked about, with a market that is a little bit saturated, if you have multiple locations, does that help your margins? Like if you have one location, you need 30% margins. If you have 3, do you only need 10? I don't totally know. I don't know where that all pans out. Would love to have some extra information from people that have opened numerous breweries. I know I've heard before, like, the second location is always the hardest, and once you get past that, it's kind of like smooth sailing. So I wonder, obviously not purely smooth sailing, there's always going to be your issues, but like it's usually smoother. You're like set up a little bit different. It's kind of like housing's similar too. So it's hard to get into that second property. Once you get past that, you're usually pretty good to go to keep growing. But interesting piece. I would love to hear more of how that changes the dynamic and business model of why people are closing, but yet these other companies that have multiple locations are very confident going in that they can keep growing.
Yeah.
But what are they seeing in the market? What are they seeing in the community that they feel confident enough to hoorah right in?
Right. Hoorah. I'm going to go back to, and you didn't ask for my opinion, but it got me thinking. I'm going to go back to, they're doing something well, right? Yep. And the people have spoken. The people have spoken, well, why not expand to them? Why? Don't make it harder for them to get it. Sure, maybe you're in their local liquor stores, but if they can come in and get a fresh peanut butter graham cracker porter on tap, why wouldn't they?
I didn't think about that. What if like part of the decision making is based on their distribution? And they're like, Littleton's actually one of our top selling areas, so let's open a brewery down there.
Actually, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, I'm sure it's at least part of the equation.
I would hope so. Yeah.
But maybe not totally.
Saturday, December 16th, is the anniversary of
the Boston Tea Party.
The Boston Tea Party. And it is also the 250th anniversary of Sam Adams.
Which is insane.
Talk about longevity.
It's so wild.
And perseverance. So in honor of both of their anniversaries, Sam Adams is releasing a green tea pale ale.
Which I love. It's really funny.
Oh, yeah.
It's a good choice.
It's a unique combination, green tea and the traditional elements of a pale ale. And then, of course, its release is a part of the brewery's celebration of the historic event of the Boston Tea Party, which is, of course, a significant milestone in American history. And we love touching on our historical facts
VX.
Chelsea's favorite.
Yeah, it's just fun how they all intertwine together.
Yeah,
That's my favorite part.
It's like, this is how we got here.
It's like creating the story of how did beer shape the world.
And we'll kind of get into that later, right? Like the beer, it's not just about the beer, it's a symbol.
It's a symbol, yeah. Exactly.
It's a symbol of something. And it depends on what you're talking about, what the symbol means. But anyway, we thought this was a creative way to celebrate a key historical event. You're infusing green tea and the ale by Sam Adams.
Together. You know what it makes me actually want, and maybe they do this, we live nowhere near that. I want to see, like, on that release party, them having, like, actors and actresses recreating the emotions of the tea party.
Oh, I don't know if I want the full emotions. Well, I feel like I don't want that kind of PTSD.
It'd be fun. I think that would be, like, a fun way, and like, how can you do that locally? Obviously, like, in Colorado, you don't have the luxury of the history of Boston at your disposal, but there is some history, and it doesn't necessarily have to be local history for you to contribute with it. But what are some fun ways as a brewery you can do stuff like that? I don't know. Like, I hated history in school because it just wasn't presented interesting. But
now you love history because it's tied with the symbol of a beverage.
Of a beer. Yeah, it's like it'd be fun to go to a brewery and maybe not even know what's going on, and all of a sudden actors show up and they start teaching me about the tea party. I'd be like, oh, yes, please. I would have so much fun with that. What a fun experience. And I think you can do that anywhere. You just got to pick a topic, and it doesn't have to necessarily be actors and actresses. You could have stations, boards up around the brewery. You could have little QR codes that people could interact with. Then if they get through all of them, they get a prize, and it's like a taster. I don't know. That'd be some fun ways to get people up and moving through the brewery and learning stuff. And it, like, I feel like everyone would be talking about it. It'd be a fun day and a fun atmosphere throughout the brewery.
So I think what you're saying is that if maybe it's a little extreme, but maybe you take like Meow Wolf and Samuel Adams and you make an immersive craft beer experience.
I think that was called Lagunitas.
Oh, yeah. Oh my gosh, my favorite brewery tour we have ever been on.
That was incredible.
Was
so
Lagunitas in Chicago.
So
and
much fun.
You walk through the doors and all you can hear is Mr. Gene Wilder singing Imagination. You're walking into the chocolate factory.
Long-ass tunnel.
And there are
literally
hundreds of 700 barrel.
They're huge. I don't remember. I'd have to rewatch her video to remember.
I literally found myself listening to that song like 2 days ago and imagining walking through that. Okay, so yes, I would love to see that on a more regular basis. Yeah. It's just using imagination.
What if the whole brewery was called like historical brewing? And that was like every month they had like a different theme of history that they tapped through.
Yeah.
That'd be fun.
Yeah.
I would go there to like learn new stuff.
Another interesting article came out from VinePair.com, and it's basically titled "China Isn't the Answer for U.S. craft beer woes, but it could be." Okay. And so basically what they get into is how Chinese breweries are looking to the U.S. for inspiration. Why? Because they discovered that their beer drinkers in China really love IPAs, is what the article boils down to. And again, links will be in the comments. If not, let us know. But they should be there. Yeah. So it's the IPA is this influence that is growing very much so in China from the American brewing styles, and the Chinese are trying to incorporate those techniques for them. Okay. And that is basically because it's been dominated by like more of your light, bright beers, right? Like your lagers and what have you.
I say from like the limited knowledge I have of the brewing scene in I think most of the Asias in general, like it seems to be pretty dominated by like the big players, not as much the craft space. And so I mean, similarly to think of like the big lager brewers here, if they never were forced to innovate because you had the push of the craft beer industry, you probably wouldn't have a whole lot of diversity. You'd have a lot of just kind of the same type of beer.
Right. So there is a group that was at GABF in Denver this year that was going around and trying to, if breweries wanted to, for sure, figure out ways to ship their specifically West Coast IPAs over to China, because Chinese beer drinkers are like emphatic about this, and they are willing to pay like premium prices for these types of beers. But there is a worry about shipping, right? And I mean, is the beer going to go bad, because it's not going to store for that long? I mean, you're on a limited time span, so you're talking about shipping over in giant containers. Yeah. So again, this would be fun to talk with, I don't know, a spreadsheet nerd out there who's excited about, right? You know what I'm talking about, like margins.
Yeah, like
excuse me.
It's. I mean, you'd probably have to send anything hoppy over fresh, right? Like right when it gets brewed, get it shipped out right away.
Yeah, but how long does it sit on a ship? You're talking, I think, like a month minimum.
How quick you get stuff over? Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
it'd be an interesting. Most likely, what's going to happen is whatever nearest by areas that can brew more of like the craft type of styles is probably who's going to end up shipping directly into China to help supply this demand. So you probably might actually see some pretty freaking awesome IPA focused breweries right outside of China, or whatever the closest country is. I don't know what that would be. Kicking some major IPA ass and shipping them over. That'd be the way to do it, right? Like that's the only way to keep that really sustainable and cost effective.
Sure. I'm sure some of, right? Like I'm sure maybe we will see some of maybe bigger name breweries going over there and opening up.
We had what was their face?
Outer Range.
Outer Range went to Chamonix,
France.
In France, and opened up their second location.
And we were at Stone Brewing over in Berlin.
Yeah, I didn't know that was there. That was a fun stumble. We had no clue. Cool. We're just walking down the streets trying to find where the Berlin Wall used to be.
It's not the one that's full of graffiti. So stupid.
Any wall, we'd be like, get the pose, this is it.
And that's just...
So it was also me finding a coat too. We were trying to buy a thrift store because I didn't bring a coat, which was an unfortunate choice for me. We ended up walking by and we were like, holy shit, there's Stone Brewery in Berlin. I had no idea. That was fun. So my guess is we'll see some navigation there, but I bet right outside of China that there's going to be like a hot spot for some really dope breweries.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see where this. It's a beginning article, right? It's probably like beginning to mid-level article talking about this influence, right? We're probably late to the game in that information, but I am excited to see where it goes, and also like what a great opportunity for whoever's doing IPAs really well to like jump on the Chinese market. And I think that's the point of the title, right? Like it's not its savior, but it could be part of like bringing that additional revenue in, which is really cool. Yeah,
especially with all the new shipping companies. Yeah, that'd be cool. So, interesting piece. We'll be excited to see what pans out in that market. That wraps up our brew news. That was a good brew news. Lots of good stuff.